Good morning, CPG peeps. This is David Abrams, CEO of iLevel Brands. This morning, I'm very excited to debut the very first episode of a vlog from the buyer's mouth. I want you to forgive me a bit here. This is the first time doing this. So, as you can see, it's going to be a little clunky. My very first guest is the merchandising manager from Weaver Street Market. James Watson, he was very kind enough to give me 30 minutes to talk to him about succeeding in his stores. As a broker, we hear all the time, can you please tell me what we need to do to be successful in the store? And so rather than telling you what we think you should do, we're going to get the buyers to tell you what they think you should do. And I think you're going to find this series extremely insightful. So, that being said, without further ado, we're going to jump into the interview and hear what James has to say. I think you're going to find it very insightful and of great value to you in growing your brand. I'm lucky to have with us my first guest, James Watts, merchandising manager at Weaver Street Market. James, you've been in this industry, it seems like forever to me anyway. When I had my original company, Kalahari, you were like, hey, if you want to be on the map with the co-ops in North Carolina, you've got to get into Weaver Street Market. So why don't you just give us a quick, couple sentences on you and the
Mm,
stores.
sure. I've been a part of Weaver Street Market almost for forever. It's been 30 years now. Uh, the and I'm a refugee from a big chain grocer, so I decided that I would rather have quality of life than a bigger paycheck. And quite honestly, that's been a really good move for me. The and the ability to actually be a part of an industry that has been exploding over that period of 30 years, and just spinning off uh eating trend after eating trend, and teaching uh the big grocers how to actually provide a wider range of product for a wider range of customers has been really, really impactful. Being a co-op, we are very excited about the work that we do with our communities, and so I always think of what our four stores are doing. It's also about being a community development organization that is kind of masquerading as a food store.
No, that's awesome. So, just, for some housekeeping for me, the main reason why I wanted to do this was I've seen so many consulting organizations, advisors, etc., on LinkedIn and in our marketplace in general. And no disrespect to them, but I feel like a lot of their advice, you know, is maybe good, maybe not. You don't have to have. That's my personal opinion. But I thought that the opinion that really matters the most is the people that are trying to chase down, and that's you guys. So if they can't learn how to work with you, then they don't have much of a chance of success. So from the buyer's mouth, what better advice can you get? So, I've written down a bunch of questions. I'm going to try to remember some of these. But one thing that I remember from our first discussion that would be good to hear about is you said you were speaking at a class somewhere at the nearby college. Why don't you just give us 2 cents on what that was and why?
Sure. Duke University is 10 miles from my office. They've got a pretty vibrant MBA program, well respected, and they're beginning to do more and more in the food space. The foundation at Duke has really been interested in food for many years, and now they're actually thinking, okay, well, can we be food focused? And so there are classes of entrepreneurs who want to, who want to work with developing their own brands. And so, from my perspective, it's important for Weaver Street Market to be involved in those sorts of enterprises, primarily because those students are getting so much information, and they're getting so much information usually from the money side, from the venture capitalists, from the traditional MBA folks who, they're used to pushing people into investment banking and to, other enterprises. And food is different. It is true that there are a lot of brands out there where the founders or the owners thought, I'm going to get in, I'm going to do my thing, and in 6 years, I'm going to get out and I'm going to take my money with me. And after that, I'll do something else. Well, that's fine and dandy,
Easier said than done, right?
but it's so much easier said than done. And so what I really felt is important is if you're interested in food, you have to know why you're interested in food. What is it that you're really trying to do? Are you trying to uh, actually work with a group of farmers to make sure that a commodity is sold, and and or to actually you've got something that is particularly healthful and you want to make sure that you can get it to a wider audience. You better have a reason, because if your reason is just to build another chip or another chip analog, well, then you're going to compete with a huge, huge group of folks who are probably better financed than you are and probably have all the equipment that they need and all that. You're not going to have any of those things. So, from my perspective, it's really important to understand what is the motivation for a founder? What are they trying to accomplish? And then to make sure that they understand what is it going to look like to actually uh, build an organization that can do those things.
Right. And one of the other things that I see a lot of times is, well, I saw this illness and because a family member had it, I couldn't find it, so I was going to go make it. Some of the fallacy in that is that doesn't mean it's a good business idea. So a lot of founders lack proof of concept and they get blinded by that mission
Hmm.
sometimes. And so they have to take that into consideration. I'll often say, look, what you're doing, stop. Just stop doing that. Go do some research and find a true need that, aligns with what you're saying, that you want to do something different. Everybody reads about, what is it, Liquid Death right now,
Sure.
$300 million raise.
Right.
That's all well and good. That is one in a million type scenarios. It's not what's going to happen to most of us. We know that
Right.
you got to, they're just not going to be around. So one of the things that we as brokers, or me in particular, always think about is, I, as the CEO of iLevel Brands, will say we're trying to be different in not having so many lines as our
Mhm.
competitors, so we can give more attention to our brands, which seems to be the case. It's working well for us. I feel like we really are being their Sherpas to help them grow and be successful in the industry rather than just one size fits all. But let's say, there are other brokers out there that have a couple hundred lines. I know there is no way that they can talk about all of their brands in a 1 hour meeting. It's just not possible. So, the question that I asked you before is, how do brands grow, or how do you find them if no one actually tries to sell them to you?
Right. Yeah, and it is interesting because I think that as there's been some consolidation in brokerage, and that certainly has created some of those huge monolithic portfolios of companies. And I can tell you my experience is that those brokers really feel overwhelmed and completely unable to actually represent the smaller brands in their portfolio very effectively. And quite honestly, at some level, I don't even know if it serves them to try to service everyone. And what I say to a broker is, I want you to look at the match between your portfolio and Weaver Street Market. Not every brand in your portfolio is a match for Weaver Street Market. So, do you know what Weaver Street Market's looking for? Do you know why they're looking for those things? And then are you being strategic about making sure you present where you think you have the highest opportunity for success? And to me, that's really, really important, because the broker is only going to, I mean, a broker is only going to have a meeting with me a couple or 3 times a year, right? They're not going to see me every month. Those days are long since past. And if they're doing their job, they're actually spending much more time in stores and actually making sure that their brand is represented and that the agreements that we have made are executed well at store level than they are in beating my door down to get another meeting. Because ultimately, the brand that shows that they are doing a great job um, getting uh, the throughput at retail is, that's really where the win is for the brand and the broker, because then I see that and I say, oh, these folks are actually focused on doing good business. They're actually trying to be partners to Weaver Street Market. I'm going to give them more time, right?
Right.
So that's
Yeah. And
hugely
so,
important for us.
yeah. And so, that's what I think that we do. We know that we need, brokers are gatekeepers to some degree, and a gatekeeper in that our team has a relationship with you and you expect that we're bringing to you things that fit your specific needs for Weaver Street Market, not
Exactly.
just one size fits all. And I think that's part of what I believe we do differently is we try to be able to sell our brands as if we work for them. And
Hmm.
then we need to partner with our buyers like you guys in a way that that giving us the time is valuable because we're going to make your life easier by bringing you things that our rep who knows you well and knows your store well is the kind of person where you want to take their call and you want to give them the time because usually it's definitely beneficial to you in helping you find what you want for your store. But tell us a little bit about, how you find new products
Mm.
that are represented somewhere that nobody ever presents to you or sells to you.
Yeah, I think for me, I look at what is it that Weaver Street Market needs? What are the strategic things that we need to do in the marketplace? We're very clear that our market is relatively narrow, and that we appeal to a certain segment of people, and that segment hasn't changed very much over the years, and that's something that I'm actively trying to do. And so as a result, I look at, well, who do I serve today? Okay, and to be completely transparent, Weaver Street Market's demographic is very, very white, and it is aging. And I see both of those things as problematic. And so what does that mean? That means I'm going to actually go out and look for ways to expand my reach to a younger demographic, a younger shopper, and to a much more diverse multicultural shopper base. So what am I doing to do that? Well, I actually make sure that I go to places where I will see minority owned brands. I actually try to partner with Native American brands that I know of around me. I try to look at retailers that I know are doing a better job than I am with the demographic that I want to serve, and actually then learn from what I see. So prospecting is a huge part of my job, actually going out
Right.
there and finding the thing. And then I'm going to recommend to some of those brands that they find a broker. Because if I find a brand that's doing a good job, the next thing that I'm going to say is, look, if we can make your brand top of list at Weaver Street Market, guess what? You've got the things that you need to now go and present to larger retailers. Nobody can make a living on their business with Weaver Street, but if they do a good job working with Weaver Street, they can leverage that into doing good business with other
Oh,
retailers.
absolutely 100%. I find it interesting. I was just at the Cahey show earlier this week, and the brand said, well, when we started, we had 500 points of distribution. We hired this broker, and now we have 3,500. Um, and what you're saying there, and it may even be the case with some of our brands. I mean, it's always about the product. So you
Mhm.
can't always take credit that you sold all those doors. I mean, there are buyers like you that find a product, try it, and then when it does well in your store, then it can be successful somewhere else. I don't know if you know this, but we look at the data that we collect for our analytics
Mm-hmm.
that we share with our brand, showing them what we do. We're being transparent, really collaborative to help them be successful. And the number one volume, who we won't mention the name, but you can probably guess the natural food retailers out there, um, is retailer X. But surprisingly, and most people do not know this, you might not know it yourself, is the number two retailer. Sorry, I'm talking about retailer banners. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Number one retailer, retailer X. Number two are all the NCG and infra groups combined and others.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a little bit more complicated in getting all you guys. That's why, I think you need brokers to go work with you, to partner with you so that these brands can get their story to you. But it's the number two biggest revenue generator for any brand that wants to succeed in the natural products industry. And by far the most profitable segment,
Sure.
which is probably more important than anything, because when you look at big and natural chains, the cost of doing business with them, cost just to do a TPR, let alone, getting on the shelf, other chains, slotting, free fills, you name it, the crazy, promotions that you have to spend, you're never going to make a nickel, really
Right.
not. But with you guys, number one, you have to be successful in your stores. Like you said, if you can't be successful in Weaver Street Market, do not go down the road and think you're going to be successful in Harris Teeter. It ain't happening. Just not, especially given that the consumer that you're chasing isn't there. So you're dead on. So to that, and if you will, two questions on this. The size of the brand that you're going to find that may be minority owned, a more diverse customer
Mm-hmm.
magnet, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any particular size there that you think works best? And then what advice can you give them that will help them be more successful in your stores?
Sure. I think that they're well, the advice that I give every uh, truly emerging brand, like uh, a bootstrapped, the folks who have been through the friends and family round, right? And they've managed to get uh, a good label wrapped around a good product. It's going to be too expensive. We all know that because scale matters, especially when you're buying ingredients. Uh, it is, but they're in proof of concept phase, right? So the thing that they need to do is not make it harder for a retailer to support them. So I always say to an emerging brand the same three things. One, what do you have a sell sheet? Do you know what a sell sheet is? Two, have you actually taken your sell sheet to a retailer and said, look at my sell sheet and tell me what other questions you have that need to be answered before you would even consider my product. So make sure that there is a point of differentiation on your sell sheet and make sure that you've got the basics covered. Does it have all of the information that a potential customer for your product line is going to need, right? Can they get it in the point of sale system and get it onto the shelf? So if you've done that, then you have now put yourself ahead of half, right? Now,
Yeah,
and that's half. What are you going to do to get yourself from half to three quarters? Because that's really your thing. Nobody needs another condiment, right? We all have aisles full of condiments, but look at where all the emerging brands start. They start in beverage and condiment. Why? Because it's a lower cost of entry. There's less processing, the ingredients are widely available. So if you're going to build a condiment item, have you actually targeted retailers where your product can be successful because they're gapped in the space that you want to fill? If they don't have enough penetration in that space, are you going to be the brand that actually brings them to relevance in that space? Are you just going to be sitting there with your against your larger competitor at a much higher price point and not be able to sell at all, right? So be strategic about actually prospecting your retailers. Go out there and look. And that's when I say not every brand is a direct match for Weaver Street Market. It may not be because the brand's bad. It may be because Weaver Street Market is saturated in that space already, right? And we
Right.
all know that you get to a point where there's no new sales to be had. So you have to figure out, in North Carolina, there's no new sales to be had in hot sauce and barbecue. Let's face it, everybody and their uncle can make an effective and wonderful hot sauce and barbecue sauce. But can they do the rest of what needs to be done? And are they thinking strategically about how do I find those proof of concept retailers so that I can build my reputation? And I'm looking for somebody who is missing what I offer, right? So that's really key. I think the other piece is, are you ready to do what it takes to make sure that once you've gotten the product in the back door, that you can get it pushed out the front door? Because getting it
So,
in the back door is the easy part.
right, and that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, what people don't understand is that you're taking a risk sometimes. And free fills, everybody's heard about free fills, but
Sure.
probably with you, a free fill ain't going to cut the mustard. You're not just going to take a free fill. You want to know, okay, I'll take the free fill that gets you in the back door, like you said, but what are you going to do to keep it going? I mean, I'm assuming that's promotions. What do you look for from a brand to succeed?
So honestly, the brands that I'm looking for are the ones that I'm willing to buy without a free fill. I mean, understand that because I recognize that that free fill only satiates my bottom line once. If I don't get a return order off of that free fill, it's wasting space in my store. So,
Right.
that's really important. For me, the brand has to have a plan, which means they have to know where they sit financially. If you have a product and your frontline price is 350, right? And that means that I'm going to be on shelf at 549, right? If you don't have a plan that will allow you to promote that product at, 449 four times a year, then you haven't done your homework because the lift on promotion is about 350%. So
Good to
that
know.
means that means you need promotion to ensure turns, right? And you would much rather discount an item than have a retailer calling you and saying, your product is going to date out in 2 months. What are you going to do about it?
Right.
Because then you're having to actually take product off the shelf and replace it. That's nobody's idea of success.
Right.
So you've got to be willing to promote. And then two, you have to have a plan for how am I going to introduce my brand to Weaver Street Market's customers. And that might be demos. It often is. Uh, it might also be social media and all of the other stuff. My take on it is that social media is way overemphasized in food, that the most impactful decision happens inside the stores still today, and that the
Yeah.
brands that we could all talk about that are the social media darlings, they're not the retailer darlings. And the reason that they're not retailer darlings is because their whole strategy is either direct to consumer or direct to another channel of distribution that has nothing to do with us. If you're really knowing that 50% of your sales is going to come from uh, hospitality or and convention or convenience store for that matter, convenience store and natural food co-op, they have very little in common. So
Right. Yeah.
for goodness sakes, I say this to folks all the time, don't sell me a convenience store item because it doesn't have any reason to be here.
Yeah.
So
I always say I'm not going to drive 50 miles to go buy something because some celebrity said it's great. I'm just
no,
not.
no,
I'm going to buy it in the store that I shop at. So spend your money at the shelf in the store. So
right.
last question I'll ask you, which is always a doozy. Distributors. If you talk to CPG brands, they are the devil. There's nothing worse than having to work with them. We'd rather sell direct. I always say that, you guys don't want the hassle in buying a product direct. It's just usually not worth the headache. And the easier way to go is with the distributors. Can you give us your 2 cents on that?
Yes, it's true, and nobody can do it as quickly as they need to. I think that the challenge with the distributor model, especially in natural foods, is that the distributor is not a logistics and delivery provider, which is what you would think. I mean, really if you think distributor, you're thinking, oh, their job is to store my product in a safe and effective manner, to make sure that the product is first in, first out into the distribution center, and to deliver that product correctly and on time to my retail partner, right? Unfortunately, in natural foods, because of the way the industry is developed, the distributors all think of themselves as brand ambassador, or at least they'd all like to sell the fact that they are brand ambassador and that they have a huge amount of influence over whether or not retailer A, B, C is going to pick up your product. And so as a result, the distributor markups are outrageous. The distributor free fill expectations are ridiculous. The distributor chargebacks for promotions are rapacious. And so the challenge for a brand is to figure out, how do I get in the door at the distributor without being taken to the woodshed in the process. And the
Right,
key there is to agree to the minimum necessary, and then to have a finite term on whatever agreement you have.
right,
So you have got to know that you are going to make money at some point in the future. Otherwise, it makes no sense to ever open up the door of the
right,
distributor.
right. But would you say it's much more worth your while to deal with a product through a distributor versus, I mean, there's a
It's
lot of,
It's the second question that I ask. It's always the second question that I ask. My first question is, tell me who the customer for this product is, and the second question is, how are you distributed? And if they say self-distributed, I say, oh, okay, well that means this. And if they say, I'm in your distribution center for this, partner and that partner here and here, then I say, oh, okay, now let's talk. Because the
right, right,
reality is that it's relatively seamless, even knowing that the distributors in our sector of the food industry are not the most efficient and most effective. But that being said, they are the partners that I have. So yes,
right,
I absolutely need the brand to have a plan to go through distribution, unless they can offer me the similar level pricing in a delivered basis, and none of them can, because
right,
freight is its own beast.
right. So how about brand founders who believe, I mean, and they may be right where they feel like they don't need a broker, but who are determined to try to call you directly and get on your shelves. I mean, it sounds simple, but it's not like you're sitting there answering the phone, listening to a person's pitch about one item. How do you guys deal with that?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, we don't answer the phone. I mean, my phone and every other buyer merchandiser that I know's phone is they're all set to straight to voicemail. You
Right.
know, people people who people who know me and have a business relationship with me know my cell phone number. If I actually believe in what you're doing enough to want to hand you my business card, it has the telephone number on it that you can reach me at. So
Gotcha.
that's super easy. Um, and the truth of the matter is that if you are a manufacturer who is in my backyard, right, North Carolina, and then sure, I am going to pay you the courtesy of giving you a certain amount of attention. If you are calling me from the other coast because you happen to have a product and you don't believe that you should have representation for your product, you're not going to get the time of day from me because you're not going to meet any of the need states that I have. I can't promote you as local. I can't talk about how I can work with you in a way that is going to be better for the environment or whatever. I don't,
Right.
there are just there are no places where I can say attach adjectives to your brand that are going to make my customers more willing to buy it. So it would be foolish of me to pay attention to your brand.
Gotcha. Well, it looks like I've taken 30 minutes of your time. I just want to thank you very much for saying what you say. I think this kind of information is invaluable to those brands out there. I mean, if Duke University wants you to say what you're saying to their students, then certainly it should be good for our students, in the CPG industry. I also want to thank Lauren Stone, who works for iLevel Brands, for connecting you and I
Mm,
to have this conversation. And I'm pretty sure that she's doing everything she can to be a good partner for you, for us, for our brands. So, just good to
absolutely.
hear her say that. But anyway, this is the very first From the Buyer's Mouth episode, and a great one. And again, thank you very much for your time.
Oh, my pleasure. This has been great fun, David. I look forward to doing it again with you after you've gotten through your long list of other great buyers out
Well,
there.
right now I don't have a waiting list, but hopefully I don't need to call you next week.
Very good.
Thanks,
Thanks
James.
so much. Have a great
See ya.
day. Bye.
Bye.